What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Freak, and today we have our first official interview, and it is with Power from Adventures of Power, aka Ari Gold. He was great in this interview. It was everything that I hoped it would be, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So here it is, the interview with Ari Gold about Adventures of Power. So let's do it.
Hi there.
Hey,
What's up?
what's up, man?
You have a professional microphone.
I do. It's a little professional. Does it sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good. I apologize I don't have one, but
No, no, you're good, man. What's up?
thanks for meeting with me.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, no problem. My days are hustling. I have like 10, not 10, like I literally have 10 projects I'm trying to get off the ground because I've realized that that's the only way to make something happen, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be so like super focused on one thing, but I got to be like, you want this? How about this? How about this? How about this?
All
So,
right. So I have like 8 questions, so it won't be
okay.
super long. Um, all right. So do you have a passion for drums, and do you play drums in real life, or do you just stick to air drums?
I have a passion for drums, but my drumming has become pretty bad. I found that out. I was in someone's basement. Where was it? In Ireland or Latvia? Somewhere I ended up behind a drum set in the last couple of weeks, and I was like, wow, I suck now. I don't know if my air drumming is holding up either, but I imagine my air drumming is going to be like riding a bike in that I will never lose that skill.
I hope not.
Being in the Guinness book, I feel like I have to
Oh yeah, for sure.
hold on to my crown
Were you in the Guinness Book of World Records for?
for leading the largest ever air drum ensemble.
Oh, okay. I don't think
2,400
I've ever
people.
seen that. I gotta look that up. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think let me see. I think it's on the Adventures of Power page. Should be. That page has got so much video content on it. But yeah, if you go to adventuresofpower.com, there's a how to rock section, and there's a Guinness
Nice.
record video there.
Yeah, I'll go check that out. I actually put it the video description so people can go check that out too. I play air drums all the time. Like it's all I do. Like I'm in the
What do you, what do
car.
you, what do you, who's your favorite, or who are your favorites, plural, to air drum to?
Well, I'm mostly into metal. A lot of metal.
Like what metal?
Um uh I love Cannibal Corpse, Cattle Decapitation.
Mm-hmm.
Um a lot of stuff.
But you're
um,
doing a lot of double bass drum with your feet, then.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from the movie is, "I'm not pussyfooting, I'm double bass drumming." I was like, yes, that is my favorite.
Nice. Do you listen to Meshuggah?
Yes. Someone just asked me the other day, they're like, "When are you going to do a drum cover of Bleed?" And I'm like, "I'm not." That's when I'm going to do it.
What, too hard?
Oh man, when that album first came out, I was blown away, and I was like, "That is one song I want to learn." Obviously, and I mean, I could like bullshit my way through it, but it wasn't, I never had it down very good.
Yeah,
Uh,
those guys are inhuman in their
man,
skills is incredible.
yeah, I went to see him live in Nashville, and they opened up, or no, they didn't open up. They headlined, and Black Dahlia Murder had or opened up for him. And like a week later, they came to Memphis, and my band ended up opening up for him. And I remember in the pit when Meshuggah was playing, so the paramedics had to come through because somebody broke their leg.
Yeah, my first pit was at a Metallica show long fucking time ago. I
Yeah,
remember I got knocked over and it was like, I was a teenager and was scared of metalheads, but I was into metal and like as soon as I hit the ground, there was this like phalanx, this shield of like older metalhead dudes like around me, creating like a protective force, almost like they locked arms naturally and just created this circle and lifted me up. And then the pit started again. That was the moment I was like, oh, metalheads are the best people.
Oh yeah, dude, they're great. They didn't know. I guess they didn't know that you are power.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's who you are. I would have
Well,
been.
we're all power.
I
As
would
Pepper
have.
says, we are power at the end. That's the
Yeah, I would have been freaking out. All right.
all right. So did I answer question number one?
Yes,
Successful.
that's all it was. I just wanted to know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Good.
I'm sure you have played real drums.
I played, you know what? I played real drums in front of, and I mean not just in front of, I mean like 10 feet in front of Neil Peart.
Yeah, and you know what I watched last
That was
night?
scary.
I actually watched the you versus him. You were doing air drums and
Yeah.
he was on the drums. That was awesome.
Yeah. That is one of the crowning, that is the, I think that surpasses the Guinness World Record for like crowning moment of air drumness is to
Yeah.
actually play Tom Sawyer air drums right next to Neil Peart.
Yeah, that
He was I mean, he was trying so hard not to laugh. You look at his face, you see he's like just barely keeping it in.
yeah, that's really cool you got to work with him though. Like
Yeah.
that's very cool. All right, so I'm gonna add something to this question, but what was the budget and what was the hardest thing about writing your own movie and making it happen with the budget that you had?
Well, the budget, I'll just say this, it was officially a low budget,
Hmm.
according to SAG.
Yeah.
That's my everyone can Google that, so that way it's adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation, it was officially qualified as a low budget movie. It was very hard to. Well, what was the second part of the question? The hardest thing. I mean, the whole thing was hard. Making a movie. I wanted the movie to feel like an epic. I wanted it to feel like it captured all of America,
Yeah.
and the way to do it the sane way to do a movie of that scope for a low budget is to shoot it all in one place. Shoot it in LA, and the factory could have been done, in Glendale, and then the downtown could have been done downtown LA. But I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to do it, in a real small town in the beginning, and I wanted to do it. I wanted to capture the breadth of the country, because the way the movie feels, the texture of it, that kind of lovingly 80s style working class feeling exploding out to New York City by the end of the movie and via Mexico, it had to feel gritty and real, and it had to have the flavor of the country. So that was crazy, because I ended up shooting for over a year. I think there were 5 different shoots, maybe 6. It was split into parts because we didn't have all the money to finish, nor did I have any way to kind of hopscotch a crew to multiple locations around the country, which is what I insisted on doing. So instead, we shot it like a bunch of short films.
Mm.
The New Mexico section was mostly shot in Utah, although I did some exteriors in New Mexico and Arizona. We shot that, and then we shot a section in LA, which was the interiors for New York. And then we went to New York to shoot the Chinese restaurant and the exteriors for New York. And then I was in Pennsylvania and shot, it was just, it was nuts. And I broke my arm in the middle of the shoot.
Oh wow.
The night before the big New York where there was like I think an 8-day shoot that we had prepped for New York, and I broke my arm the night before we were supposed to start. And I'd raised all this money, got the crew together. There's all everything's cleared, locations, and then I'm starring in a movie where I've got to play air drums, and I broke an arm.
Oh
So
wow.
it was a disaster. Felt like a disaster. I felt like I was going to die, not just from the arm pain, but it's just like, how am I gonna? And what I ended up doing was putting a cast on, and I went through the script of the days that we were going to shoot, and we selected out, I think, maybe 2.5 days worth of stuff that I could do in a long sleeve shirt. So you see some scenes in the movie. If you look carefully, you'll see that I've got a cast on.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm doing these because like, there's small things like that that people probably would never even know if, you didn't
Well, like
hear
the
it from the
scene,
people
like
themselves.
for the scene where I talked to Michael, talk with him on the telephone from this port, this really cool looking port spot that I wanted to shoot at, that I had cleared. I was like, okay, I don't want to lose that location. I'm going to do that scene. I'll just be wearing a long sleeve shirt, but I was in such pain I couldn't even pick up the phone with that hand. So I'm using the phone with my left hand, which is fine. But then written into the script, he kind of forgives me for leaving, and he's kind of come around to my side, and it's supposed to be this triumphant moment where I'm like, I get the approval from my dad, and then I tear off my sweatpants and start running because I'm back in my shorts, and my dad has accepted me as like the shorts wearing air drum guy. And I hang up the phone, and I actually couldn't take off my pants because I'm wearing a cast, and that aren't like you try taking off a pair of sweatpants with one hand. It's very hard to do, and it would have been like a 45-second scene. It was supposed to be like I tear them off.
Yeah.
So we designed this Velcro, like Velcro on the side of the pants so that they would just literally tear.
Yeah.
That I couldn't get it off. Like I couldn't physically pull it because of the pain with my right hand. So then
Mm.
the solution was, I was like, oh, maybe we can just attach the sweatpants to the phone booth, and as I start running, they just fly off magically, and that's what we did. And I think it's like one of the funny sort of physical gags in the movie is like, I start running, and suddenly the sweatpants just go like, disappear. And that was a case of having a creative solution to a problem, and it
Yeah,
all
that is.
that happened because I couldn't use my arm. So
Wow. How did you break your arm?
I was trying to make the crew laugh because I'd been struggling to get this location booked, and also struggling with my own indecision about which port I wanted to shoot the port scene in. There was one in New Jersey, there was one in Brooklyn. Yeah, I think I had narrowed it down to those two, and when I finally figured out that I was going to actually use the one in New Jersey, but then use the one in Brooklyn just for like another shot that I wanted to use it for, I was so happy I had a solution that I was telling the cinematographer, and like, well, maybe I'll run across the dock and like, you know, run into this pole as I'm like trying to jump into the boat. And he's like, huh? And then I just start running to prove what I'm going to do. And I ran directly into a pole
Oh
and,
no.
and broke my arm
Oh wow.
just to try to, and I was like, oh, mother, it hurts so much. And I'm like, but didn't occur to me that I was broken my arm. And then I looked my arm, and it was like, there was like a softball inside my skin.
Oh no.
And I was just like, no, 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 and everyone's like, I think you broke your arm. And I was just like, this can't, because I'd spent probably 4 months setting up that shoot.
Wow.
So anyway, yeah. So lots of struggles.
Yeah, that sounds like it. That's crazy. That's good stuff though. I would love to know more about the Adventures of Power charity auction.
Yeah, that was well, yeah, it was when I released the movie, it was quasi self-release. I wanted to do something in the spirit of the film, and Neil Peart and I had talked a lot about music education and how important it was for kids to get music education, not necessarily to become the next Neil Peart, but to become everything: mathematicians, artists, scientists, writers, whatever. But that the study of music, the ability to play music, has a physically identifiable, measurable effect on the brain. Um, and so I found a school in New Jersey, appropriately in Jersey City, that had had its music program cut, public school, and so working with the VH1 Save the Music, we identified how much money it would take to reopen that music program, and then starting with Neil Peart's donations, which I think he gave us signed snare drum, if I remember correctly, DW drums. Started with that, and then being able to call other drummers and say, Neil Peart donated a drum. Can you donate something too? I was able to get a whole bunch of drummers to donate, and I was staying in I was staying in my friend's place on his couch for like 6 weeks at that time, and I was like, "Can I use your garage?" And like the garage ended up just completely full of these drums, and I'm like going to UPS every anyway. But worked out. We raised enough money, and there's video footage of the these kids opening up trombones and violins and stuff in these boxes that we were able to get for them. So it really was a cool thing.
This next question, we kind of already started talking about it in the beginning, but what are some of your favorite bands? It can be any kind of band that you really like.
Police. I mean, it sort of depends on my mood,
Yeah.
uh, but drummer bands or any bands. I mean,
Well, most bands have drummers. Okay, well, how about this?
I mean, but there are bands like Animal Collective. I really like them, but they're not really like known for drumming per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a question. Like, do you mean? I mean, in terms of like my drumming, Rush, The Police, Led Zeppelin, Kraftwerk. Those are the ones that probably were the most influential.
Yeah.
Kraftwerk, people don't think of them as a drummer band. I think it's a great drummer band. It had two drummers.
Oh wow, yeah. Some people don't. Uh,
Different.
we will pay attention to the drummers and we will pick apart what they're doing and like what kind of drums they use and like what kind of techniques they use. But no, nobody else. They just assume it's not a real person playing because most things
Right.
are just programmed these days, and that's why I like metal. It's so raw and just like there's not much programming that goes into it, which I
Right.
love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is kind of like a obviously, I assume Neil Peart is like the number one on your top 5 favorite drummers list.
He's definitely in my top 5. I mean,
Yeah,
for the pleasure of listening to him. I'm Billy Cobham brings ear pleasure, and then the ones I mentioned, the bands I mentioned. I one of the problems with a lot of modern music is the drums are so processed in the recording that I don't necessarily feel the vibe of the drummer as much. And you're like, how much was this quantized? Is this real feel, or is this the feel of the editor taking all the beats and like locking them in? You know what I mean? Like I don't vibe that much on modern recordings of drummers because I don't feel like I can hear them. Like I can't hear their personality as much as I can with
yeah,
like pre-digital recordings. So
yeah. I understand that. That's um. This is kind of just a stupid question. Who are your top 5 favorite air drummers of all time?
me, Power,
That's on
you,
my top of my list.
you. I don't know that I have favorite air drummers. I mean, I'm in it. I'm in a class of one. God damn it. I mean, people always point out Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean did a cool air drumming video, so I guess I should. Although, I didn't know about it until after I made the movie. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, you should be on top of everybody's top 5 favorite air drummers.
exactly.
Yes, it's definitely on mine. I'm my second favorite. um, I know there was quite a few um bigger actors and actresses in your movie. But one that I kind of one that I noticed that was, she's been in tons of movies, and to be in like a indie movie like this was probably a huge deal for you. So how was it working with Jane Lynch and getting such a credible actress for your
Yeah, I
first
mean
movie?
she wasn't quite as famous at the time,
Mhm.
but she was definitely known and definitely she hadn't done Glee yet, so
Oh yeah.
but she was still she had already done 40-Year-Old Virgin and some other stuff, so she was a big deal. It was amazing because she was incredibly nice and reassuring. I was like freaked out. I'm on set of my first feature film, and we don't have a lot of amenities because it's a low budget film, and she was just so sweet to me and made me feel like I could do it.
Yeah.
So no complaints about her at all. She was a total dream to work with. So I was lucky, and she also helped me get Michael McKean in a sense because she didn't actually reach out to him, but when I reached out to him, the fact that he had worked with her made it a lot easier to say, oh, and we're doing this wacky movie out in Utah, in a small town 2 hours outside of Salt Lake City, and we want you to play my dad, but also you'll be Jane Lynch's brother. So that helped.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Now for the kind of what I've thought about doing for these interviews and for other people is like, some people might feel like this is one of their favorite movies too, just like me, because I'm a drummer, and I was like probably 13 or 14 when I first seen it. Maybe not that young. But I was a young teenager, and I thought it was great because every time I every time somebody asks me, oh, what is the movie? What is it like? And I always tell them it's like air drumming and Napoleon Dynamite had a baby. It's like it's perfect. It's a great movie. It has more of a storyline than Napoleon Dynamite anyway. But
I got a lot
so
of flack for that actually at the time. I mean, one of the reasons that I think the movie got kind of buried is that I brought it to Sundance the year after Napoleon Dynamite, and everyone was like, "Oh, this movie's trying to be Napoleon Dynamite,"
oh yeah, I can see
and
that.
that sucked because I just think that that director and I were dipping into the same sources. We both were obviously kind of riffing on an '80s movie thing, and then we both had a love of Repo Man. Um, the for me, I was kind of referencing there are a lot of sort of hidden Repo Man, not references, but just influences in my movie, and Napoleon Dynamite also is a kind of like G-rated
Mhm.
on Repo Man, and the character of Napoleon Dynamite had, in my opinion, had to have been influenced by the dorky friend character in Repo Man, who was played by a guy who then ended up joining the Circle Jerks. Is so fucking funny to me. But the pose hawk and the weird way of talking and the thick glasses, all that was like super Napoleon Dynamite. And
Yeah.
so I think that's to some degree what happened is we both liked the same things, but his movie came out first, and so I got kind of raked over the coals where people were like, "Oh, this movie's trying to do Napoleon Dynamite," and it was so
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, we kind of already you kind of already talked about one behind the scenes thing, you breaking your arm and all that. What are some others behind the scenes stories that, maybe from other actors that, moments that you've had that are memorable to you?
Well, I have this postcard, this book called Postcards from the Set, which I think I should be downloadable free off the Adventures of Power site. Anyone who sees this can let me know if it isn't it was supposed to be. But I have all kinds of stories in that. I'm trying to remember now. Like, I mean, the arm break was a big one. And the whole thing was so difficult to make. Uh, I'm just thinking through different scenes, like what craziness I can remember. I mean, well, one amusing day I would say would be when I filmed when Power shows up in Newark, New Jersey. Well, first he gets beat up by Tim and Eric on the street, and it's kind of crazy how much I loved him and Eric, but I pretty much cut the scene out of the movie. It's in the bonus features on the website.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, basically you can't see the, the scene ended up being like 5 seconds of just I get punched and that's over. But in the action in the website, you can see the deleted scene with them. And I actually gave them their first SAG role. It was the first time they had done a SAG job, but I was already big fans of theirs. And it's sort of embarrassing in a way that I cut the scene out, but it slowed the movie down. At that point, the character needs to show up in Newark and start his adventure, and it slowed things down by a couple minutes in a way that just didn't work. But then the next scene, the next morning, I'm like going through the streets of Newark, and we asked people who like knew Newark, like what are the craziest streets in terms of like unsafe and difficult and problematic, streets that power shouldn't be on. And then we went there and filmed there. And those, that was an example of scenes where we didn't bring the whole crew. It was just me and the cinematographer for that section, because we had a lot of different cinematographers, but that section was a guy named Brian Rigney Hubbard, a great cinematographer who I went to school with. And we just had a van, and we'd pull up places, and I was in costume, and I would run out into public and walk down the street in these like really short shorts. And so there's a shot that's pretty short, but where people are staring at me as I'm, going down the sidewalk, and people are like laughing and pointing at me and like, what the hell is this guy doing here? And that was real. And so that, there's a lot of fun stuff like that where like I actually just went out into public as Power.
Yeah. That's awesome. I would do the same thing. It's a great outfit. Who did you pick that kind of look for the movie, or did you have like a
Well, I worked with a costume designer, but I had started wearing these short shorts the very first time I ever played Power, which was at an air guitar competition.
Yeah,
And
I seen that.
I had these short shorts, and I didn't really think about it. Was sort of thinking about the drummers I remembered from childhood that would have these sweatbands, and sometimes they would have short shorts, and
Yeah.
I went on stage like that, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah, I seen that video that a long time ago. That's awesome. I love that. One thing I do want to know about, which is one of my favorite scenes, is when I guess this is what you shot in New Mexico, but it was supposed to be in Mexico, which is like the underground, like Fight Club kind of like metal.
Yeah,
scene.
we actually shot that in Utah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, a few hours away from the town where we shot the New Mexico town scene. There was this bunker, like an abandoned, I don't know what it was originally, but I think it was part of a mine. But yeah, what was your question about it?
I don't know. It's that's just one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah,
like, was that written in there? Or was that just kind of because it's such a short?
Oh, it's all written. You talking about the underground fight, the air drum fight in the pit in Mexico?
Yeah, it's like a metal thing. Like, what song?
Yeah.
Like, what
that was written.
Was that? Was that written?
That's my brother. There, you got to get the soundtrack for this movie because there's like 40 tracks. I mean, there's orchestral stuff that my brother composed as score, but also there are a lot of the songs. Because we didn't want to spend the money on every song. Because it gets super expensive. So we paid for like the key songs and got a really great deal because Neil Peart and Rush gave us a good deal at the beginning, and then we were able to get Phil Collins and these other big Judas Priest, some other big bands agreed to the terms because they were like, well, if Rush agreed to those terms, we'll agree to those terms too. Yeah. So it really helped us. Rush really, really helped the movie out a lot. But we still wanted to replace some of the songs that I had, every scene in the movie had something written in. I don't remember what was in the scene in Mexico, but we decided not to pay for it. So my brother composed a song called Serialismo, which, he does it in Screamo style, or like Cookie Monster metal style. but actually for the music nerds, it's not only is it called serialismo, and the lyrics are like about eating cereal, which is relevant for Power, who loves cereal, but the melody and chord structure is in serialism. The musical form of serialism, which was invented, I think, in the 19s, about 110 years ago, was this idea that you needed to use all the notes of you needed to use all the notes before returning to a first note,
Mhm.
essentially the black keys and the white keys. So it creates these really weird melodies. So it's a musical joke because it's death metal about cereal done in serialism, which was not named after cereal, but it's named after the serial of notes. You want to hit all the notes. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's one of the amazing many songs on the soundtrack that my brother Ethan Gold um, did for the movie. I mean, like, he also does he created the Algerian funk for the training sequence. He created
Yeah.
the New Jersey Nights,
Hmm.
which was I said I want to do like a Bon Jovi / Bruce Springsteen style New Jersey anthem,
Hmm.
but have it become a Indian, like with tablas at the end, take over, and like, so a rock song that becomes like a tabla jam at the end, because that's in the movie. That's what happens in the scene, is they start air drumming with hand drums, and they get kicked
Yeah.
out because of the racism of of the of the system or whatever. So my brother had these crazy assignments to write songs that were these weird hybrids. Also, the song that um, the villain of the movie Dallas H sings, which is actually my brother singing, but A Little Like You, that was also a weird assignment. I said I want a song that's like the worst pop punk combined with the worst new country. So I said 40% horrible pop punk, 40% horrible new country, and 20% hip hop. And I wanted to sound like a hit.
He nailed it.
And he nailed it.
Yeah, he absolutely nailed it.
So yeah, that's another cool thing with the movie is, for the seven people, you being one of them, who know the movie, they
Yeah.
get you get a whole other experience of the movie if you listen to the soundtrack of originals, because everything, like even the scene where he's at the in the bar, the kind of talent show in his hometown, and you see the end of the hippies singing "The People Want Peas." So that's the song also that my brother wrote, but he had these guys sing. But you can listen to the whole version of some of these absurd songs
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
soundtrack.
I can't wait to go listen to that. I never even thought about listening or looking up a soundtrack. That's on
Yeah,
me.
yeah, no, it's awesome. Enjoy it. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, and all that. So
Awesome. Yeah, I can get that right now.
yeah.
All right. Well, this thing says I have 3 minutes and 20 seconds until I have to upgrade to Pro to keep talking to you.
Okay. Well, what question are we on? Maybe we're in.
That was it. That was the last one.
Oh, well,
We're
that
just
worked out
talking,
good. Jamming.
make up the time. So yeah,
Keep jamming.
that was perfect. Thank you,
Okay.
man.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, for reaching out, and
Thank you for your
all right.
time. It
Well,
was
thank you,
perfect.
and have a beautiful afternoon.
You too.
Okay.
See ya.
Ciao.